Hi, everybody. Jeremy Young here. I'm Director of Partner Strategy at Blumira. I got Chris Ferner, SE, on the MSP team. Hey, Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good, man. We are going to take you through a product demo here specifically for MSPs. If you're here, we're assuming you've already seen the pitch, so we're not going to do the high level stuff. This is just diving into the product. So, Chris, if you would share your screen and let's take a look at the MSP portal and go from there.
All right, here we go. All right, so hopping in here in the product, first thing you're going to see when you log in is going to be the MSP portal. So if you see this, you're in the right place. You've got your account set up as an MSP, you're good to go. If you don't see this MSP portal here, you're probably have something going on with your account that isn't set up to designate you as an MSP.
You
So
probably
you're
signed up for our free edition. And if that's the case, just go to blumira.com/NFR as in not for resale, and that'll get you to this form, which you will request. And that's where we'll provision your account that has the MSP portal and gives you full access to the product for free.
Yep. So if you see this, you're good to go. You're in the right place. So in the MSP portal, a lot of convenient features right at your fingertips. Really easy to onboard new customer accounts in here. So let's say, for example, you want to add a new customer. You're going to literally just click this button. No per customer paperwork or anything. You're going to just click the button, fill out the customer's information, and you're going to be up and running on that customer's account in a couple of seconds. You got a bunch of customer accounts you want to give us. We even have a CSV template you can download, put the customer information into, send that back to us. We'll provision all those accounts for you and kind of saves you all the time of copy and pasting information from some other place into the portal. Makes things easier for you. So
And we drop those in there onto the free edition, but it doesn't connect anything. So it really just becomes a placeholder and does a lot of the bulk clicking for you. But what that also does is syncs those accounts into our CRM as owned by you. So it's kind of default deal registration at the same time. So if any of those accounts happen to reach out to us, we would just route them back to you. Now, you did see there when you hit add an account, and you can see under the edition on the screen in front of you, there are 4 editions: XDR, SIM plus Endpoint, SIM Pro, and Free SIM. If you go to blumira.com/pricing, you will see the list prices for these, as well as if you continue scrolling down, you'll see all of the features and breakouts of those individual platforms. Or editions? What you get in your NFR is the full XDR platform. What most of your clients will probably be looking at today in the near future is maybe starting on free, but then moving into SIM plus endpoint visibility. For the MSP pricing version of that, if you went to blumira.help/MSP pricing, you're going to get to this article. And this will also be in the first email we send you when you submit for your NFR. And it gives you what the tiers are for MSPs. We bill monthly in arrears based on actual usage above your minimum. And you're free to start out, but once you have clients that are ready to get going on paid editions, you're going to select a tier that will have your price, that will set your price across all editions, and then you can start deploying, and we just bill you monthly. And once your usage is over that minimum, we bill you for actual usage. You get one invoice, and then you'll get a billing report showing who used what. Let's pop back into the product.
cool. So yeah, so basically good information there that we're going to send to you once you sign up your NFR, including, I think Jeremy said, information about pricing. And one of the really cool things, like he said, about putting customers in free edition is you can just put your customers on free edition. You get access to M365 connector, you get access to other cloud connectors like SentinelOne or WebRoot or Duo. And so that's some value you can just pop onto all your customers' accounts right on day one there. No cost to you for doing that.
With the idea of using what we find as a conversation lever to help let them see the value of log level visibility. So when we find a business email compromise in Microsoft 365, you can say, hey, Mr. Customer, we would have never seen this without this type of tool. We use the XDR platform internally. We need to get you onto a paid edition so we can get logs from all of the things, not just one. But let's take a look at, if we were going to set up a free edition account, or if we're going to start on our NFR account, what would we do to first set up the M365 connector?
Yeah, so 365 connector is super easy to set up. In the product, you're going to just click on Add Connector. You're going to click on 365. So this is kind of a theme across the product that you're going to be linked to documentation when you're going to be doing things. So Literally, you're going to click the documentation, follow the steps with pictures and step-by-step information on how to set it up. Just follow the steps. You're going to bring 3 pieces of information back into the product. You're going to hit connect. We're going to validate the API key, and we're going to start pulling in logs. So it's a really easy process to get started. If you're going to be doing a bunch of these for your customers, after you're doing 2 or 3, you're going to be doing them in 3 or 4 minutes probably per customer. It's really fast. So you're going to start by doing that. That's probably the best place to start. That's the easiest connector to do. That's a lot of valuable data that we get there. And again, on free edition, that's a really great place to start to get your customers some coverage on 365 right away.
Now your
Once,
NFR has everything included. So the next best thing after the cloud connectors that would be low hanging fruit for you to set up if any of those were applicable to you was let's get Windows logs from wherever those devices may be. And that's what the Blumira agent is for.
yeah, so agent is another really easy thing to implement. So you're going to hop into your agent menu here, and we're going to put 5 endpoint agents on every NFR. So once you get in here, you're going to have these 5 agents available to you. Put these in Windows workstations, laptops, Windows servers, pretty much anything 2012 R2 or newer, you can put this on. So this is going to be a log shipper. This is going to be a response tool in that it can isolate endpoints that it runs on if you see a threat, or you can set up XDR to do automatic isolation. And it's going to be a really easy way to get logs flowing in really a couple of seconds. So what you're going to do is you're going to create an install key. And so you're going to go in here, you're going to say, I'm going to create an install key. You're going to give it a name. You're going to give it a limit. And this limit, just give it a limit of 5. You just need 1 install key for your account. And then you're going to have this install key in the portal. And we're going to give you right in here a install script. This is basically a 1-line copy and paste, run it. It's going to install the agent on the endpoint. So you're going to grab this whole thing, you're going to drop it into admin PowerShell and run it, and it's going to deploy the agent. Takes 15, 20 seconds to run and deploys the agent. It's a pretty much silent process if you were to script it in the background. Doesn't have a tray icon or anything that the customer is going to need to click on or see, and it's up and running and shipping logs.
And pro tip before you go away from that script, all the characters up until the dash agent is going to be a static script. Everything after that is going to be the key that is generated for that specific script. So if you were doing this in an RMM, you could grab that first part and load that as the script, and then everything thereafter would be the global variable. It depends on what tool you're using of what they call it. But that would be an easy way to have the global script and then the key being input per client.
Yep, absolutely. And we can work with you too to make sure you have enough agents on customer accounts so that you don't run out. So when that time comes, when you're ready to start some billing customers, talk to us about it. We'll make sure that everything's set up the way you need it to there. So once you get agents installed, you're going to see them in the portal. So I have one that's online here, and you'll see a lot of helpful features on these online endpoints. So one of the things you can do is you want to see logs from that endpoint. You're going to just say view device logs, and it's going to pop you right into the log viewer, which we'll go over to log viewer in a few minutes here. You can view details about the device like MAC address, IP address, that kind of stuff. And you can also isolate right from here. So this is a setting that's available both as a manual tool as well as in XDR edition, an automated tool. You can isolate the host, which means that it's not going to be able to talk to anything on the network, nothing on the internet, except for shipping logs to us. So it's a great way to lock down suspicious endpoints if you see signs of attacker behavior. And again, with XDR, you can automate that. So this can cut down the time that an attacker is on a system, hopefully stop a threat in progress and limit or eliminate damage. So,
and a common question is, so after hours, what's going to stop this stuff if I get something and I'm not staring at my Blumira console after hours? Well, that's where automated host isolation comes in. So if you have any specific Windows endpoints that you don't want to be included, as you saw there on that detail screen, you can exclude any specific device from automated host isolation. But you can also, in the XDR platform, which is what your NFR is on, you can set up auto host isolation based on priority. So for priority 1 threat, P1 threat being the highest, and then suspect is suspected threat. So these are things that are most likely threats. We just need you get to answer a question around the context of the situation, but you can configure it depending on your risk appetite and say P1 threat, automatically isolate. Everything else, just let me worry about it when I get to it. Or whatever the case may be for your particular appetite for those settings.
Yeah. And if you get concerns about, what if you get false positives, that kind of stuff, I'll cover that in a little bit, but we do have ways for you to tune detection rules. So if you have a P1 threat that's firing often on something that's legitimate, I'll show you how to adjust the detection rules so that you can get to the point where you can trust this automatic isolation and not need to be worried about routine things that aren't malicious.
And
Isolating
agents
points.
run on all Windows operating systems, regardless of where they may be. The cloud connectors are set up under settings, cloud connectors. And then the third way to get us logs is through a Blumira sensor.
Yep. So the sensor, the main purpose of the sensor is going to be a syslog collector. So this is going to be the way we're going to get logs off of your firewalls. So pretty much every firewall has the ability to ship syslog. Our supported product list for firewalls is pretty comprehensive. And this is going to be how you're going to get those logs to us. So the sensor is going to be a small Linux VM that needs to run ideally somewhere near your firewall. And it is going to just collect those syslog logs, ship those up to us. It's not going to be a long-term log storage appliance. It's basically just a syslog collector and forwarder. It collects those logs, it packages them, it encrypts them, it sends them to us. One of the other cool things that sensor can do is it can also be a honeypot. So I've got an example of it here. So this is going to pretend to be a Synology. So if you try and authenticate against it, if you try and FTP to it, if you try and aggressively port scan it, it's going to just record that you did these things and create alerts in the Blumira portal. So it's kind of a neat little bonus that you can have when you run the sensor. It can give you some early warning if somebody's poking around your network and trying to find out where your data is being stored at, where your valuable data is being stored at. So,
And Chris, you mentioned wide support. Let's go over and look at the docs page for a minute. So blumira.com/integrations will
there we go.
take you to this page, which shows all of our third-party integrations. It's not an entire list because we have stuff that we don't consider third-party, like Blumira Agent isn't listed here, but that's what we use to gather Windows logs. But for firewalls, for the identity management, for cloud apps, for Microsoft, this kind of gives you a documented list of integrations that we have created. Part of the value of working with Blumira is you don't have to worry about creating the integrations, writing the parsers, creating the detections on all this stuff. These are the integrations that we have those things in place for. And clicking on those tiles will show you the instructions on how to do it. And that gets you over to our docs where it shows you how to get set up. But let's pop back over. And so the inside the Blumira sensor, it will show you some information on utilization. It'll show you how much storage you have that are using, how much CPU, etc. It's very lightweight. It doesn't have high requirements. It's most commonly run as a virtual machine. You can run it on bare metal if you need to. We have clients that put them on some of the unique things you've seen, Chris, to get them out to smaller sites.
Yeah, old appliances that might have been an old firewall or an old backup appliance, old PCs, something with an i3 processor, something with 4 to 8 gigs of RAM. The most critical thing is you want to make sure it has SSD storage and not spinning disks. That makes sure that it keeps up to date with logs that are flowing through it. But yeah, if you have old hardware, the biggest concern usually I see is people trying to find things that's still reliable and good on power. But whatever you have laying around that is decently powered, it'll work for it.
And once the sensor is up, and all of this is included in the platform, there's no cost per sensor or anything like that. So you can add modules, the honeypot being one of them, and then that's what deploys that Synology disk station. And really, the part where you guys have to do, it's just setting up a vanilla Ubuntu system, and then you run a curl script on the Ubuntu system that you get from in here. It's going to show up into that installation instructions segment. And then you're done. We do all the hard work in the back end. So it really doesn't take long to set up, and then it kind of magically connects, and then you're able to add modules. This is primarily going to be your firewall collector. There may be other things that you're going to use for this, but getting syslog, ceph, leaf over to this is the primary use case to encrypt and ship up to our cloud. But now let's take a look again at that Synology disk station. You sent some invalid credentials into the honeypot. You tried to log in. What happens when that happens, and what do our findings look like?
Yeah. So Within a second or so of me doing the authentication attempt, we have a finding in here. So this is going to be an alert to the Blumira users that somebody triggered a finding in our product. So in this case, this is going to show, and I'll hop into this to kind of show you what this looks like. So the findings are going to be our alerts to you on triggers of detection rules. So the detection rules may be things like this, like a honeypot attempt. It could be things like password spraying, skipped MFA, using PowerShell in a suspicious way. So when a finding triggers, this might be one instance of attacker behavior. This could be 10 or 20 or 50 or 100. The way we organize our logs and our detection rule triggers, we'll take repeated attempts in a short period of time and stack them all into this one finding. So that's less noise to you, more relevant alerts, and keeps things neat in your inbox. So when you see us coming with you with an alert, you know that it's something that is worth your time to investigate. So
every finding is going to have the rule name up top. It's going to give you is it a threat, suspected threat or risk, and then what priority it is. You're going to have detailed analysis. And then once you assign a responder, the workflow will open up and it becomes an if this, then that. Please answer these questions and we will give you the next step of the process of what you need to do, which is really excellent. It teaches your team, your IT people, how to respond to security incidents, because this is all written with the idea that you don't need to have security expertise in mind. Now, if you need additional help, you can request help. That's where it says add note, request support here. You can use that for internal notes, but if you add note and send to Blumira support, that goes to our SOC team and they will be able to help you investigate whatever the case may be. That's not an urgent way to get to us. If it's urgent, pick up the phone and say, hey, this is critical, and we'll be back with you within the hour. Now, if this is something like Cyber CNS, if this is some vulnerability scanner that happens all the time and you need to not be alerted every time it happens, you can create a detection filter to filter out the noise. And so every alert every finding we send will provide the information and have detection filters on it so that you could do what Chris is doing right now, say from this IP address, don't send this alert anymore. And it starts to whittle down the noise to make the alerts more relevant to you. And as MSPs, we use tools that do things that look like malware. RMMs do a lot of things. We, as the MSPs, do a lot of things with PowerShell that look like malware. If it's something that you know is going to happen over and over and over, go ahead and filter that out, or keep it so you want visibility into it, but know that it's possible. Also, be careful, and you can add additional levels. So over there where it says plus next to that line, you can do this and this and this. So you can get as granular as you want, because you don't want to just simply make it a broad IP range and then have a false sense of security by basically whitelisting the whole thing. Now, what Chris was alluding to earlier, down into the log details, we match and stack evidence so that if something was happening multiple times, so he logged in twice and we got this twice, it shows each attempt. Now think about password spraying, where you have 300 users and they each get hit 20 times. We're not going to send you a plethora of alerts. You're going to get one alert with a whole bunch of lines of matched and stacked evidence, which makes this much less noisy and much more actionable to you. I'm sure you've received during either a pen test or vulnerability scan, 4,000 alerts from the firewall. There's nothing to do with that except for Control-Alt-Delete. Now, if you had one alert that had all of that underneath, all that information underneath that one alert, and it gave you analysis, and the first part of the workflow is, are you doing a vulnerability scan? That's something that's actionable, and go back to your day job. So every one of our findings comes with this information, and it really allows you to get value out of the product, get visibility into things you didn't before, understand what they are, determine the right action to take, and then go back to what you were doing. It doesn't turn into a crazy mountain of noise and alerts. Your techs will actually appreciate the information that they see here, which is not a hallmark of this industry. So if I wanted to do more investigation here, common question, how do I get access to the actual logs that are being sent to Blumira?
yeah, so in addition to, of course, us taking those logs and doing all the detections against them, all the logs that we ingest into the product are all available to view. So on XDR and SIM Plus editions, that's 1 year. So there's 1 year of logs available for you to access to do further investigation, maybe troubleshooting, maybe audit, or other types of investigations. It's all available to use. So report builder is where you're going to go to search for Windows logs, for example. So let's say you want to look for a certain event ID on a certain workstation. So it's really easy to access information. This is a really easy to use report builder. You can do this click and add to filters function, so you can really quickly drill down into the information you're looking for. You can go down here and add additional filters. Maybe I just want this one event ID, add that to filters, search again. It's a very fast and responsive search engine. And it's
And
really,
Chris, maybe I came from a product that had this type of functionality, but wasn't that quick. Is this like a weird demo environment where it's just snappy, or is this the actual product?
no, yeah, this is the actual product. This is the same product that our customers work out of. The only thing that we do that makes this run fast is A, the way it's architected, and B, if you're running super huge queries, we're going to limit the queries in the product to 5,000 rows. Now, nobody's going to page through 5,000 rows. They're going to drill down and look for more of what they need. Maybe you want a result of more than 5,000 rows. At any time, you can go over here. You can export to CSV. And if this is a result of more than 5,000 rows, that CSV is going to have the whole thing. It's 10,000 rows. It's going to have it all in it. So the data is all available to you. It's a responsive platform to search for the data. And if you want to pull the data out for a third-party tool or for an IR firm or whatever, the data is available to export and to use in other ways as well.
Now, on day one, we're not expecting you to be experts in this. Every single paid Blumira customer gets a solution architect assigned to them to help you become experts in the product. But an easy way to get started is you might have seen their load saved reports. Pretty much anything that you can think of, we probably have a global saved report that gets you pretty close, that allows you to drill down further. So maybe I just want to look at successful logins to Active Directory, or just successful Windows logins. You're going to be able to see that. You're going to be able to change the time frame. And if I want to see this on a frequent basis, so once a month, I can then schedule that report to be sent to a location of my choosing on the time frame of my choosing. And as you can see, all of the reports that were available there are available here. And these are all the global ones. If you took a global report, drilled down into it, and then chose to save it, you could save and schedule that report. It would show up there available for scheduling as well. So you can use the default, you can also save it, and you can save and schedule that to your heart's content. And if you need any help with this, that's what we're here for. We can help you contextualize of, you've got something in your brain. If it's possible, we can help you get a report for it and then get that scheduled over to you. And that is how Report Builder works.
Yeah. Cool. So I'm going to hop over to something that we kind of talked about a couple of times here, which is detection rules. So detection rules. So this is, again, the security value behind the product. So when you deploy, let's say you connect a new customer on 365, within about 2 hours, we're going to automatically deploy our 365 detection rules. That's one less thing you need to worry about. One less task is going to take your time. One less task is going to take your worry and decision-making that you need to do. So we're going to deploy detection rules for 365 when you connect 365. If you connect Windows logs, we're going to deploy Windows detection rules. So that's all being done automatically for you by our automatic rule detection engine. So that's, again, less work for you, less trouble for you to worry about. And so that's part of the managed aspect of Blumira, is that we deploy those rules, we manage those rules, we're routinely creating and modifying and maintaining the rules, and that's all being done within every customer's environment. So you can go in here.
If you have created detection filters, they're going to show up here over on the right, and you can sort to find those. You can delete detection filters from here. You create detection filters on the finding as they trigger, because we want to make sure you see what the log evidence entails. So you are creating it with intention and not unintentionally DOSing yourself or creating a filter that filters out too much. Now, there are two types of rules that are put into the product. They're enabled by default, and there are disabled by default. And the enabled by default meets our criteria of these are things that we are low enough level of noise. We believe there's going to be action. We're going to go ahead and put them in the product and turn them on by default. The disabled ones are probably going to be a little bit noisier, and sometimes they're a smaller version of a larger alert. And what I mean by that is, so 50 gig outbound rule in outbound connection via GNS or GNP might be enabled by default, whereas the 5 gig and 1 gig there are saved as in the product, but disabled by default. So, but if you have a smaller customer that doesn't do site-to-site replication, maybe that's applicable to you. So I would suggest going in here in your NFR, turning on whatever makes sense to you, or turn them all on and use detection filters, or use your experience to turn them off, as the case may be, so you understand what is relevant. A couple of ones that we would probably recommend turning on are the risky behavior one. Chris, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, thank you.
Is it anomaly one?
Anomaly.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I haven't turned on in mine already, but yeah, it's
Oh,
anomaly 1
gotcha.
and 2. Yeah, these right here, anomaly 1 and anomaly 2, those need tuning, but those are kind of a internal developed detection rules surrounding suspicious logins from unusual locations for that user.
And we did that because the built-in detection to M365 for kind of anomalous, impossible travel is kind of a black box. Too long, don't read. So we are trying to recreate this from what our visibility is to get you to the right information. And like I said, it might require a little tuning, but it's going to be, you would probably want those on given what we have seen. Other than this, so this is the blunt tool of on-off detection filters are using the scalpel. In the SIM Plus and XDR editions, we also have block listing. So if you have firewalls that support block listing, we can create block lists for you, and you can grab these URLs, drop them into your firewall, and this gets you the benefit of all the threat intel feeds that we subscribe to. In the XDR edition, you can enable automated blocking so that we're not telling you, hey, this computer is checking out to a bad IP. It just automatically stops that stuff. And so all of the automatic remediation, automatic actions, current and future, will be mapped into the XDR edition, but this is also available in SIM Plus, but it will notify you and you can take action on it, and you can add IPs, add domains in here as the case may be.
Yeah. And I shown in here, this is the basically the list of devices that support block lists. There's some popular firewalls out there that just don't have the functionality in them for us to do this. So where the firewall does support things like a threat feed list, especially a threat feed list that is long enough to work with what we have, that's where we have some support for block lists.
Quick note going back to the MSP portal. The MSP portal is where you want to do things in a one-to-many fashion. So like we showed earlier, if you want to bulk upload accounts, you can do that by adding new account and then going to bulk, downloading the spreadsheet. You can do the same thing with users. You can go to users, add user. You can, if you have multiple, you can download a CSV, send it to us, and we'll get them all in. But this is where it's very easy to create a new user or assign one user to multiple accounts. Now, if you add someone as an admin, they will by default have access to everything under your MSP portal. If you have people that only need to respond to the alerts, you can then add them as a responder and then assign them, pick and choose, assign them to what they can see and what they have visibility to. However, if you are using a PSA, Chris, you want to take them through probably best practices of getting findings from both your NFR and from your various sub accounts over to your ticketing solution. And let's just use ConnectWise Manage for the purpose of this illustration.
Yeah, sure. So most MSPs want to get alerts from all the tools into their PSA. So what you can do is you can create a user in here that's going to just be a ticketing user. So you could add a new user and you could call it, ticketing or service board or whatever you want. You can tell it what the email address is. You're probably going to skip voice and text alerts for your ticketing user, unless maybe you've got a after hours call service that's going to use, that might want to work in with this as well. And you're going to give it a responder role. And then you can go ahead and you can basically assign that that user to one or all of your customer accounts. And so then once that happens, when new findings get triggered, there's going to be an email sent to maybe your other users as well, but it's going to go to your ticketing user as well. So that's going to go into your service board and create a ticket. And like Jeremy said, with ConnectWise Manage, you can even go beyond that. And the way that our email alerts are structured, you can parse that out, and you can parse out things like the customer name and the priority level. So you could kind of do some pre-triaging of those tickets when they come in to parse, especially the priority level. So you can maybe have things bubble up for your dispatchers, and they can know if there's priority things that need to get dealt with, and also assign things to customers right away. So you've got different SLAs for customers. You can have that stuff be pre-done in your PSA as well. Pretty much the only thing you need to do for that ConnectWise parsing is make sure that your customer names in here match your customer names in ConnectWise Manage. And then we have instructions on our partner support site on how to create a ConnectWise parser to make it work like that. And then, yeah.
And pro tip on how to get to the partner support site: when you are in the product and you are on the MSP portal somewhere, accounts, users, or settings, and you press the help button, that is going to take you to the partner support site. If you are anywhere else in the app, anywhere else, and you hit, and both at your NFR and the child account level, and you hit that support button, it's going to take you to the main support site. So if you were looking for information on how to get a parser in a ConnectWise Manage, that's going to be partner specific stuff, and that's going to be under our partner support site. And there are reasons why this is a different site. We want you to have proprietary access to stuff that we probably don't want your clients to see, including pricing and packaging. So that's on a separate place. So you can find how to parse that information into ConnectWise Manage. You can also, if you search for MS Teams, we also have an article on how to get alerts into a Teams channel by creating an email address for a Teams channel that you would create and get in here. Don't remember what the name is, but yeah. there's too many articles that come up for Microsoft Teams, but they are in there. It's probably over in the main one because that's a universal one, but that's a good way to get to the partner specific information. The last thing I think we haven't covered is dashboards. And so this is, Blumira is not a tool we want you to live in, but we do have some dashboards that are helpful. And before we actually go into that, common question, if you hit the bell icon, because I don't think we actually went over this, for user notifications, you can then, once you have your ticketing set up, you could turn all of yours off, or you can customize them as the case may be, as needed. But a common question is like, so after hours, how are we going to get notified? You choose that and you configure that here. So if you want to get notified for a P1 threat via voice or text, you can do that. And also common question, so does Blumira have a SOC? Yes, we do. That SOC is focused on doing everything necessary to make this tool super easy so that IT admins can run it. We do not look at all of your alerts prior to sending, because we already created them. We already created the analysis and the workflows, and we already groomed them such that we're only turning on ones that we feel are going to be actionable. So we don't put ourselves in between you for that reason. We are available for help when necessary, but there's no need for us to whittle down the noise of a bunch of rules that were imported from the internet, because we didn't do that. We curated them specifically because we know these are things you want to see, which is a big difference from basically everybody else there you're talking to. And they're going to tell you that you need eyes on glass. Let's talk about security outcomes. What you're trying to get to is finding something, getting notified in a relevant time, and being able to fix it quickly. The vast majority of other solutions that you'd be looking at in comparison to this, you're going to be paying for an SLA. That SLA, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. That's the amount of time that they have to review your alerts before sending them on to you. That's an eternity in security time. And when they finally view it, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be adding notes and throwing that over the fence to you to say, hey, this is something you need to look at. And if it's a P1, maybe they pick up the phone and call you and say, hey, this is something you need to look at. Well, how about we do that as it's happening, or in like moments after it happens versus hours later? And it's going to get you to the same outcome, and not have varied analysis based on whoever the tech is that might have picked it up. Every single one comes with pre-built analysis by the people who are in our incident detection engineering team who literally wrote the book on blue team defense. So no, we don't have your eyes on glass. We're not playing middleman, but yes, we're getting you to better security outcomes faster and in a more standardized way. And you get to pick and choose how you want to be notified about those. Other things to say about that, Chris? I might have
Nope,
beat that
that's it.
to death.
The
Yeah.
the short thing there is that, your customers best. So delivering you alerts quickly is empowering you to be an intelligent and efficient SOC for your customers without having just generic templated logs thrown at you after a 2-hour SLA or whatever.
And if you need the automated host isolation after hours, you can turn that on, and that can automatically stop it if you don't want to be woken up in the middle of the night. So last thing we'll take a look at quickly is running through dashboards. These are high level information. The most fun one is the security dashboard. The more widgets populate based on the more data that you send Blumira, but this gives you a high level overview visualizations of things that might be outliers. Not a ton in this demo environment, but as you can see, so top devices by log counts. If one of them is creating way more noise than everybody else, maybe that's something you want to look into. If somebody has 10,000 failed logins to Active Directory, maybe we want to reset those credentials. Those are things that are going to pop up here as you bring in more and more data. The manager dashboard really kind of does the look at things over time. So currently, this is something you might want to look at during a QBR, kind of gives you a high level funnel of things. Yours are going to go down over time versus the demo environment that's all over the map. The responder is really just a prioritized way of looking at open findings. You're not usually going to have that many open findings, and going to the reporting findings menu might be a better way to look at findings based on if you have just a couple open. And then the summary, as it sounds, is a general summary overall that kind of shows you what you got going on in your environment. But really, the workflow that you're going to receive once this is all set up, you're going to get an email that's probably going to go to the right service board. You're going to open a ticket, click the button to get directly to the finding. You're going to read the analysis, go through the workflow, fix the thing, close the ticket, and go back to your life. You don't need to be in here 24/7. So with that, I think we've pretty much run through the whole product. If you have questions, email msp@blumira.com. But if you like what you've seen, if you want to play with it yourself, go to blumira.com/NFR and go ahead, submit that form. We'll provision this environment for you. That environment is good for up to a year. And that's to operationalize this into your stack, add your clients, sell it to your clients, and then it remains free thereafter once you start paying us and have paying clients underneath you. If you're super user, we'll reach out and we'll come to some other agreement. But the whole idea of the NFR is to give you plenty of time to make sure this is the right tool for your business. And I hope that sounds like a good partnership. That's what we're trying to provide here. And we'll be here to support you every step along the way. So thank you very much for your time and attention. Chris, thanks for running us through this, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.